Some people have pets that can fit in their pockets or be put on the palm of their hands. But the people from this episode prefer larger pets. They have 5 meters long snakes, giant bulls, the largest rodents in the world, and even bears in their houses. In this episode, I'll show you these and other biggest and most unusual pets that broke all records. Let's go! Hexie. Some people get guinea pigs, hamsters, cats, and dogs, while others get real snakes. It'd be okay if these snakes weren't very big, but some of them grow to colossal sizes. Hexie the python is just such a case. Here is the pet of the Briton Marcus Hobbes and probably the biggest pet snake on the planet. 10 years ago, Marcus bought Hexie at a pet store when the reptile was still tiny, not more than 20 centimeters in length at the time. Now Hexie's grown. He's almost 6 meters long and weighs more than 114 kilograms. And he keeps growing. It's not easy to feed such a giant. Hexie eats rabbits, deer, calves, goats, and pigs supplied by local farmers. As you can imagine, the costs are not insignificant. To maintain the python, Marcus spends thousands of pounds a month. But this isn't the main problem. Although the python is domestic, he may well strangle or even swallow a man, so Marcus and his family members are in constant danger. Though Marcus himself is sure that Hexie would not attack him, however, he doesn't take the pet out of the terrarium in front of his children, just in case. Thong. Nowadays, huge reptiles more and more often become pets, but people used to have them before. For example, a resident of Thailand, Kanatip Natip, doesn't need to worry about the safety of his home. For more than 20 years, he lives with a huge 2-meter-long crocodile, Thong, who perfectly replaces the guard dog. Kanatip considers Thong his son. In fact, the Thai has 2 crocodiles, Thong and Nguyen. Kanatip has made a small pond on his property, which has become Nguyen's home, but Thong likes to relax in the house. He spends most of his time cooped up in the house with occasional walks. Thong, according to his owner, is a large but gentle and harmless reptile. The crocodile has never hurt anyone yet. On the other hand, it's not very affectionate. Thong is a serious and independent guy who is clearly alien to tenderness. Bailey Jr. And what about the domestic bull? No, I don't mean one that lives on a farm with a herd. I mean the bull that lives right with its owner. That's what Bailey Jr. is. He's Jim Soutner's pet bison. With his owner, Bailey loves to travel by car. And this footage is amazing. Bailey Jr. is a real giant. He weighs about 840 kilograms, his height is 180 centimeters, and his body length reaches almost 2.5 meters. Thus, he's one of the largest pets in the world. Bailey Jr. likes to sleep by the TV or lie on the mat. Still, his main pastime is car rides together with Jim. The car even had to be rebuilt and pimped so it could support the weight of such a passenger. Whatever Jim's relationship with Bailey Jr. is, I'm sure it's sometimes scary for a man to have such a giant living with him. But what if you're not just living with a giant, but with a giant predator? Mark Dumas, for example, adopted a polar bear named Aji. Is the Canadian afraid of his pet? I don't think so. Mark and Aji have a very warm and intimate relationship, so much so that the female bear lets Mark play and wrestle with her. Mark can even put his head in the predator's mouth, knowing nothing will happen to him. The two also love to swim in the pool. Mark is probably the only person in the world who can safely swim with a real polar bear, one of the most dangerous and largest predators on the planet. The reason for this trusting relationship is that Mark adopted Aji when she was just a baby. Considering that Aji has lived most of her life not in the wild, she simply hasn't been able to become a formidable predator. But Mark still realizes that the predatory instincts that sit deep inside of Aji can kick in. So he never goes too far and doesn't allow himself too much. It's not just giant bears, crocodiles, or bulls that are unusual pets. How about the planet's largest rodent? or the dog that weighed more than a wolf, or the largest cat in the world at the moment. All of them are worth seeing, so stay tuned. There's plenty more to come. Gary. Common hamsters or guinea pigs are too boring. Why not have a giant rodent that weighs tens of kilos? That was probably what Melanie Tabaldos and her husband Richard Loveman thought when they decided to get a capybara. Generally, capybaras are the largest rodents in the world, which weigh 30 to 40 kilograms. But the couple's pet, Gary the capybara, is even bigger. The bulky rodent weighs over 50 kilograms. At the moment, Gary is the largest domestic rodent in the world. Given such size, it's not surprising that Gary has his own bed and even a pool. That's where the rodent likes to spend his time. But it doesn't leave his owners alone. The capybara often gets into Melanie and Richard's bed or sits by the fireplace like a dog. George. The dog named George was also a giant. Looking at the footage, it's hard to believe that George was real. He seems to be photoshopped, but he's not. This blue dog from Tucson, USA, could boast a height of 109 centimeters, and his body length from tail to nose was 221 centimeters. George's prodigious size got him into the Guinness Book of World Records as the tallest dog in the world, surpassing Zorba himself. Even as a puppy, George wasn't a small animal, and when he grew up, his owners, Dave and Christy Nasser, had to move to a bigger house so that the dog had room to spare. The couple provided the dog with a separate double bed because a regular bed wasn't enough for such a giant. As for food, George consumed 50 kilos of food a month. This went on until 2013 when the record breaker unfortunately died. Barreville. Let's move on from dogs to cats. The average domestic cat is 50 to 60 centimeters long. Maine Coons are usually longer, and Barreville the Maine Coon is absolutely huge. This cat who lives in Italy is the current record breaker in terms of size. His length is 120 centimeters. That is, he's about twice as long as common domestic cats, which is amazing. For his incredible size, Barreville made it into the Guinness Book of World Records in 2018. The record holder lives in Italy with Cinzia Tinarello and Edgar Scandura. One might assume that such a giant cat is vicious and aggressive, but this is not the case. As the owners of Barreville say, their Maine Coon is quiet and even shy. He spends his free time lying around somewhere, and in breaks from resting, the record breaker likes to eat fish and chicken and ride in a stroller, surprising passers-by. Sammy. Cats, dogs, and rodents are all familiar pets, but we shouldn't forget about turtles. Many people have these reptiles as pets, but hardly anyone can compete with Colin Kaepernick. The former American football player boasts an amazing pet named Sammy. Turtle came into Colin's life when he was only 10 years old. Back then, the quarterback could put Sammy on the palm of his hand. Now he has to put a lot of effort to lift the big creature, as the turtle weighs more than 50 kilograms. The exceptional size of the giant is due to the fact that Colin was feeding the turtle well. He says Sammy loves fresh clover, apples, and leafy greens. Take note if you want to raise a record-breaking turtle. Goldie. Finally, it's worth mentioning fish, which are also one of the most popular pets in the world. It's not difficult to take care of fish, you just need to monitor the water in the aquarium and feed them. However, everything was more complicated for Joris Gilbert's pet. The Dutchman had a goldfish called Goldie that was almost 48 centimeters long. On March 24, 2003, it was listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest goldfish in the world. It must have taken Joris a long time to find a suitable aquarium for this fish and to provide it with sufficient food. But it was worth it. The pet made history. That's all, guys. Do you have a pet? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.